And welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm CBS 46 political reporter Giovanna Derpick. And now that Donald Trump is our president-elect, he has to put together a government. So our political analyst Bill Nigut is here to talk about that.
Hi, Giovanna.
Hi. Okay, so let's talk about the local names that are creating buzz.
Yeah, there are a number of Georgians who were very active in working on behalf of the Trump campaign. Certainly, our junior senator, David Perdue, is one of the first members of the United States Senate to come out and endorse Trump. And he's now being talked about for a big position, possibly a cabinet-level position, but certainly he could be offered something. Newt Gingrich, former Georgian. There's been talk about him as being a potential Secretary of State. Newt says that's not what he wants. Newt says he wants to have a position removed from government where he can go into all the agencies of government, see what's wrong, and talk directly to Trump about how to fix those things. Jack Kingston, former congressman from down on the seacoast, became a very enthusiastic and early surrogate for him. He'll certainly be offered a significant job. And Congressman Tom Price, chair of the Budget Committee, could do Trump a lot of good in that position on the Hill. In fact, he'll have a lot to do with rewriting the Affordable Care Act if, in fact, that's the direction the Trump administration goes, and it clearly is. But he could also be offered the position of Secretary of Health and Human Services. So we have a number of names in the mix for big jobs in Washington.
Now, for Georgians, the everyday person, what does this mean for them? Do you think that this will really impact them?
Well, I do think that because there were Georgians like a David Perdue, like a Jack Kingston, and even Newt, although he really doesn't consider himself a Georgian, I don't think at this point. I do think that Georgia issues will get more consideration from the president and from his administration than might otherwise have been the case. Georgians may be able to look forward to the tax cut that Trump has promised all along, although that tax cut is going to have more of an impact, apparently, on higher-end earners. But I do think the state stands to gain influence because so many people were involved in the effort to elect him.
Issues. Roe v. Wade.
Yeah?
Reproductive rights.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going?
He's going to have some people to put on the Supreme Court, we imagine. I mean, first of all, he's got the Scalia vacancy. The Republicans won a bet. They've bet if they did not act on President Obama's nominee that they'd get a Republican president who would be able to appoint someone else to fill that seat. He will have the opportunity to certainly nominate someone for that job. He could have a couple more vacancies on the court. So that will have an enormous impact on what happens with the right to choose and on other issues that will come before the court.
What's the likelihood that Roe v. Wade will be overturned?
Well, that's hard to tell. I mean, we'll have to see what case is presented to the court, how broad it is, but certainly if President Trump does name very conservative justices to oppose Roe v. Wade, he has the potential to overturn it completely. I think the bigger question is that where Republicans really want to go? Is that the kind of issue that they want to take on? You talked about the fact that the gap between Clinton and Trump female voters was less than a lot of people expected it to be. Do Republicans have to wonder how women would react if they aggressively pursue a complete outlawing of abortion in the United States? There will be politics involved in all this.
Definitely. Now, what about Donald Trump's temperament? That was talked about a lot, especially the possibility of him having his finger on the nuclear button. Do you think that he's going to calm himself down, or do you think he's going to be who he is because that's what got him elected?
I think Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He got a lot of praise for the victory speech he gave the other night, that it was measured, that it was conciliatory, that it was inclusive, but he gave that speech from a teleprompter. Donald Trump will sit in the Oval Office without the aid of a teleprompter and make decisions day in and day out. I think he's shown us a temperament that we do have good reason to be a little concerned about. Just the other night, in response to demonstrators who were anti-Trump demonstrators in the streets, Trump had control of his Twitter account again and sent out a tweet essentially criticizing those demonstrators and blaming it on the media. That Donald Trump is back, and I think we have reason to watch that carefully and see how it progresses.
All right. Lots more to talk about, so stay with us. We'll discuss other races that were on the ballot when Public Affairs on Peach returns.